Exception of the Day of the African Child. The Day of the African Child, or the African child, seems to face a few more challenges, such as abuse, lack of access to proper health, and just to mention a few, poverty. Now, despite all the challenges that the African child goes through, they still are relentless when it comes to finding light in darkness. Today, we mark the Day of the African Child. The theme this year is Leave No Child Behind for Africa's Development. And on Weekend at 1, we are exploring some of the challenges that the African child goes through. We want to narrow it down more specifically to here in Kenya. When it comes to poverty, take a look at this. 41.5% of the children live in poor homes, and another 35.8% of children do not get enough food. But out of this 41.5%, let me bring it closer home to you. That stands for about 9 million of them, and out of that 9 million, 6.7 million of them come from rural areas, and another whopping 1.9 million in urban areas. Let's now take a look at health. 31% of children are delivered at home, and another 13% are moderately wasted. When we mean moderately wasted, this refers to the fact that the bodies are severely underweight. And to counties that cannot access food, when it comes to children rather who live in counties that cannot access food, Turkana stands at about 69.2%, Samburu 63.5%, Mandera at 62.5%, Busia with the least at 62.1%. Those are counties where it's difficult for children to access food. And just on a side note, remember that food security is one of Jubilee's top 4 agendas. And to close off, this is now matters of child labor. 1.2 million children in Kenya are employed. But when we mean children, we mean those between the ages of 5 to 17 years old. And more so, 43.1% are girls and a whooping 46.9% are boys that make up that 1.2 million children between the ages of 5 to 17 years old that are under child labor. And there you go, the counties that are affected earlier that I mentioned when it comes to children who cannot find food. Of course, Turkana leading with the highest with 69.2%. Later on the same issue, Day of the African Child, our Timothy Otieno will be joining us later on to give us an update with what's happening in Riruta. All right, I am told that we now have Timothy Otieno. Timothy, it's good to be speaking to you on this day. I am told that you're in Riruta. How are the celebrations of the Day of the African Child being chosen to mark?
Well, Zinzi, thank you so much. Here at, of course, the Kinyanjui Training Institute in Riruta Satellite, Nairobi, the fun fair has begun right behind me. This is the day for the African child, and the children have come out in plenty, no doubt, Zinzi Kibiku. But despite all that's happening today, of course, a lot of activities, including a singing competition, eating competition, there's a dance, there's rap battles among the young folk in this part of the town that we're going to be witnessing for the entire afternoon. Aside from all that fanfare, there are, of course, serious challenges that are being faced by the African child. This, of course, being a day that was gazetted to be commemorated back in 1991. Now, this particular day, for those who may not be well conversant, June 16th, 1976, in Soweto, South Africa. Scenes that the world had never seen before, where students and children went out to demonstrate against the education system in South Africa that was heavily influenced by the apartheid regime, and the apartheid government at that time choosing to shoot other children indiscriminately, killing some of them. And since then, that day has been set aside for the African child so that they can know their rights. But Zinzi, before I continue, I have, of course, a few of the organizers of this particular particular event, whom we'll be speaking to, just to give us an overview of what to expect this afternoon. I am now joined by one of the organizers of the event from Fresh Mind Entertainment. Thank you so much for speaking to KTN News. Perhaps you could begin by telling us your name and what should we expect this afternoon here.
My name is Mack. I'm the founder and the organizer of this event from Fresh Mind. What we basically do, we do events. So this day, Sambaza Love is one of our events, and we decided to do this on the Day of the African Child. So today, basically what we want to sensitize the children, both the children and their parents, about their rights. You know, children don't know their rights. Most of them, they don't know their rights. So that's why we do this, to sensitize them, that they should be knowing their right as an African child. Yeah.
How important is the role of the parents in educating the children about their rights? Because as I can see, we are surrounded even by many of the children here, but I'm not seeing the older generation, the parents, the guardians, who are supposed to partner with you guys to send out this particular message. How important is their role in today's activity?
It's very important. As a parent, first, before a child knows their rights, their parents should be knowing their children's rights. So let's assume maybe most of them today they were very busy, but since we're in the heart of this community, we expected some of them to be here. But we still have a few who have come today to celebrate with their kids. We're also going to sensitize them so that they should be knowing about the right of their children and help their children know their right too. Yeah.
Your organization has heavily invested in the child here in Kenya, and you were talking to us earlier about having events even in Kibra. From your assessment as somebody who's on the ground dealing with matters of the children, what is Kenya's biggest challenge in regards to the issue of children's rights? What is the country struggling with, and how can we as a country overcome that challenge?
Basically right now, what I can say, parents are ignorant. You see, like when you go around Dagoretti South, this constituency we're in right now, we have so many children's home. And the reason why we have so many children's home is because something is happening to a child and no one is taking care of that child. So you find that the children's home are so many because the kids are from their homes, meaning something is not going well. Their rights have been violated. That's why they run into their home. So number one challenge is parents should be taught or should be sensitized about their kids, how to treat a child. Yeah? Since, again, we have like, tuko na upungufu wa activists wa kufunza wazazi about the children's right. Okay. No. So like in this community, we don't have so many of them. No. If we could be having so many of them, the children could be in their homes and they could be knowing their rights.
All right.
Yeah.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Perhaps, Zinzi, because of time, I may have to leave it at that. But later on, I'll be speaking to the children here just to get their thoughts on this particular day. We have already seen a sack race right now. If my colleague could just quickly walk with me, David Otieno. There is a singing extravaganza taking place here among the children. Of course, they're making faces, but that is the afternoon and evening that we're about to have. As you can imagine, high energy among these young folks, but of course, serious issues of early child marriages, domestic abuse among children, denial of basic rights such as education for them, which is an essential and integral part of their growth and development, and of course the growth and development of Africa as a continent. So perhaps later on, Zinzi, I'll be able to speak to the children, but right now I have to hand it back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Timothy. Timothy Otieno, our reporter in Riruta there, showing us how they're choosing to